Well, I finally bit the bullet. I pulled the trigger and I bought myself a new mountain bike. After riding my old Trek Fuel EX7 for over 7 years, and we all know that's like 100 years in mountain bike years, I decided on a Gen 6 Trek Fuel EX 9.8 GX AXS. This bike is a mid-travel trail bike that packs an unbelievable amount of versatility, and the price point that I bought it at is pretty dang incredible too. So, after riding it for a few months, getting used to it, and changing a few things around, here's my 3-month review. Let's go check it out. The Trek Fuel EX Gen 6 has a carbon frame that's fully capable of tackling any terrain. Its geometry includes what some would consider a steep seat tube angle of 77.5 degrees and a head tube angle of 64.5 degrees. This head tube angle is adjustable by 1 degree to make it either slacker or steeper by purchasing an adjustable headset cup. The suspension setup consists of a Fox Performance 36 front fork with a Grip 1 damper with 150 millimeters of travel and a Fox Performance Float X shock with 140 millimeters of travel in the back. The Gen 6 continues to come with the Trek patented mini link. The high position raises the bottom bracket by about 10 millimeters, making climbing more efficient, and it also reduces pedal strikes. The low position makes the bike's geometry slacker and easier to bomb the downhills. New with this model is what Trek has named ABP, which stands for Active Braking Pivot, which is a patented system designed to make braking more effective without traction loss. The knock block has been discontinued and there's no longer a lower pivot for the rear shock with which my old Fuel EX7 came standard. You can adjust the leverage rate of the rear shock with a flip chip. You can ride it in the less progressive setting for a plusher feel that's perfect for rugged trails, or flip it to a more progressive position when you're hitting big features and don't want it to bottom out, or when you want to run a cool shock. Also related to this is that you can run this bike as a mullet, which is really popular right now. You only have to change to a 27.5-inch rear wheel and flip the mini link to the high position to get your bottom bracket up higher and add a shock with 10 millimeters more of travel. You can also add a coil shock if you'd like to up your enduro game. Speaking of bottom brackets, my old Trek had a press fit bracket which meant little options as far as upgrades. It seemed that I was always dealing with squeaks and constantly replacing the bottom bracket. This bike comes with a robust threaded bottom bracket, which is a very nice upgrade from the cheap press fit on the older models. The rear hub is a Bontrager Rapid Drive 108. Instant acceleration and no lag when you're on tough climbs. It's definitely noisier than the hub on my old bike, but I tend to like hubs that are somewhat noisy. The Bontrager Line Elite 30 wheels are carbon. They come with a 2-year warranty. If they get damaged in any way, Trek will replace them for free. The wheels and tires are tubeless ready, and it comes ready to roll right out of the box set up tubeless. My rear rim has already taken a few licks that have concerned me, but so far, so good. The tires are Bontrager SE5 Team Issue. They're marked as an aggressive tread with durable construction that offer confidence and traction in the most durable conditions. The bike comes equipped with SRAM code R4 piston hydraulic brakes, and in my opinion, it'll stop on a dime. Equipped with the SRAM GX AXS wireless drivetrain for smooth, precise shifting, the SRAM AXS system and app are really easy to understand. This piece of equipment adds the technology component to this bike for me that I didn't have before on my old model, but in my opinion, it's one that I like. The internal frame storage is a frame storage system that allows you to store some of the essentials that you might need for your bike rides. Last but not least, this bike features the Bontrager RSL carbon integrated handlebar and stem. It has a 27.5 millimeter rise, 45 stem length, with a whopping 820 millimeters in width. So, after having gone through the list of this bike's features and having ridden this bike for roughly 3 months or so, it's time for some of my thoughts. First of all, I'd like to comment on the aesthetics of this bike. This bike is absolutely stunning. At some point, I may add some accents to match the color of the Trek graphic. My last bike's paint started peeling really early in the game. Hopefully this won't be an issue with the paint on this carbon frame. I would like to say, however, that the paint scratches very easily, and mine was scratched simply from a muddy bike park day. This isn't intended to be a knock on this bike at all, but muscle memory is a very difficult thing to overcome, and I'll admit that getting used to the setup has been difficult. The AXS paddle shifter that came on the bike was very difficult for me to get used to. It came with a one-piece shifter and brake lever bracket. Ultimately, I ended up buying a more ergonomic shifter, the GX AXS rocker paddle controller, that included a discrete clamp that mimics my old shifter a lot better. It separates the brakes from the AXS shifter and gave me a good bit of adjustability that I didn't have before with the one-piece bracket. I ended up switching the direction of the shifter as the direction it came in seemed backwards to me. This was a very easy change on the AXS app on my phone. And speaking of the adjustability on the app, it took me until recently to find the multi-shift option. This has been one of the negatives of the AXS GX shifting for me, in that I thought I couldn't press and hold the button for multiple gear changes, and come to find out, it's only one click on the app to make it happen. All of the technology that I've needed to learn has been very easy to learn so far. Whenever I've needed to adjust the shifting, it's been very easy both on the shifter as well as on the app. Early on, I felt like I was babying the shifter more than I did with the cable GX Eagle shifter on my previous bike, but I've gotten past that now. At 5'9", I'm kind of on the cusp between a medium and a medium-large size bike. I decided to go with the medium, although early on I did second guess myself. I've been able to make myself more comfortable with the bike by this point. Again, muscle memory is a challenge. I still haven't formulated a final opinion on the one-piece stem handlebar combo. It really limits your cockpit adjustability, and that's a factor that I definitely don't like. The 45mm length of the stem is built in, and I'm not sure that I really like the length. The handlebars come with a clown-like width of 820mm, and that was something I couldn't and wasn't going to deal with. I cut them down to 780mm very early in our relationship. The rise of these bars is 27.5mm, and at some point, I will probably try another bar set with more rise. I also understand that you have to buy yet another Trek-specific bracket to be able to add a lighting system, but I haven't done any night riding on this bike yet, so it hasn't affected me. The Trek MenuLink chip came in the low position, and early on I was experiencing a ton of pedal strikes in my ride, so I flipped it to the high position. That helped remedy those pedal strikes. However, one thing that I did notice, that while it was in the low position, I didn't have as much pressure on my hands on the handlebars, so I had less hand numbness, which is something that I deal with, so at some point I may try it in the low position again. Some of the reviews that I've seen have been negative on the Bontrager tires, but so far I haven't had any issues with them. I've also heard that the TLR rim strips can be a little difficult to deal with when changing out the tires. I haven't had to deal with that yet, so we will see about that. If you've experienced this difficulty, I'd like to hear about it. Feel free to drop a comment in the comments section. Going from an aluminum to a carbon frame is a huge upgrade, and one that I'm really liking. There is definitely a different feel and sound of riding a carbon frame bike. At this point, I don't think I'd ever want to go back to aluminum. Trek has added the internal storage, and it's a great feature, one that I didn't have before. It's a neat storage area to store your essentials in. The only thing so far that I've done to customize this bike is adding Trail One's Hell's Gate grips and Crank Brothers Stamp 7 pedals and my cool Walker's Wild sticker. Overall, the adjustability that this bike has is incredible, and although I feel like I'm still riding this bike in a very neutral position, at some point I'm going to play with it some to get it a little more aggressive. As of yet, I haven't changed the flip chip on the rear shock. This is also something that I plan to do soon. If you have the Trek Fuel EX Gen 6, let me know in the comments what changes you've made to your bike. I'm Scott, and this is Walker's Wild. Be sure to subscribe for more content like this in the future, and I'll see you next time.